than it's actually good for. So a good example of this, and a common amateur mistake you hear so often, is someone using pan to create separation in the mix. So you know how we just looked at those guitars now, and how we shape them to not only enhance them but also shape them to fit better in the mix and to not get in the way of their vocal. Well, if you pan those right up front, then it makes it kind of sound like you don't need to do that anymore, right? So it just sounds like, oh well, that's working, you know, I can hear the guitars and I can hear the vocals all fine, because the vocals are in the middle and then the guitars out to the side. Well, it creates a bit of a false sense of shape over there, if you want to use that term, where it sounds like it's working but it's not really. So the best thing to do, I find it's better to rather mix in mono as long as possible and get it working, get the mix working in mono. By mono I mean so nothing panned out to the side, all down the middle, and some interfaces you can just actually hit a mono switch even, which is very useful even later on, so that you can get an idea of it working and you can get the mix working before you going out and panning things, you know, left and right. And the same thing applies for things like reverb as well. You know, first get something like a vocal sounding good, sounding clear, sounding the way that you want it to, and then add a reverb to it. Because if you put reverb on right up front, you know, that just creates more problems, and then you sort of, you know, you're hearing these frequencies that aren't supposed to be in there, and they're getting, you know, accentuated by the reverb, and it just makes things so much more complicated. So first get it working without effects and in mono, I find, and then, you know, add the space elements. Obviously, if you're adding effects, you know, in order just to enhance it, you know, that's probably a little bit of a different story. So you can add reverb or delay just to as an effect to really make it sound better. But in the space, we're really looking at creating a sense of space around instruments and in the mix, so a sense of depth. We're specifically using elements like reverb to create depth and to create width. So those are really what we're looking at in the space. And the first thing that I hear here is, and probably the most obvious one, is probably just to pan these guitars out a little bit. So they sound cool like they are. This is what they sound like at the moment.
Around you, moments like these would cease to end when the sun went down.
I think if we just put those guitars out slightly, I'm not going to go very hard. I'm going to go about 50% over there.
Around you, moments like these would cease to end when the sun went down. It could be something new, born.
Right, so that's pretty cool. Instantly, that makes a big difference with separation, and it just sounds, you know, a lot cooler. So that's great to do once you've done the shape and they're sounding good. You know, that can really be a cool thing, just to separate things a little bit. Right, then as for depth, what I've done here is I've got two reverbs here at the top. They're two altiverb reverbs. I'm just going to put them on over here. The first one over here is basically a medium room. And yeah, it's fairly large actually. But what I'm looking to do here is just to create a common space among all these instruments here. So I've got this one on verb 1 over here. And you can see I've got verb 1 on the vocals. I've got it on the guitars. Pretty much the only thing I don't have it on is the bass, because it can start to get a little bit warbly if you start adding reverb to bass. But I'm sort of just trying to put them all in the same room, right? So this is one of the things you can do if you're trying to tie all the tracks together, you know. So this is kind of an acoustic song, and I thought it might sound cool if it sounds like they're all jamming in the same space. You know, there's other approaches. You know, you could take an approach where you create a lot of contrast in your space, where, for example, the vocal has, you know, really long lush reverb and the rest of the track is really dry. So that's another way to go about it. It's very subjective. It's up to you. It's not right or wrong. It just is one approach versus another. So in this case, I decided to put everything in this room over here, and I'm just going to switch these on over here so you can hear what it sounds like. And let me just back that down a little bit. What I'll do, okay, so the second reverb isn't happening yet, it's not on. I'm just gonna mute this reverb, this room that I just told you about now, and then I'll put it on so you can hear what it sounds like.
It could be something new, born around you. Moments like these would cease to end when the sun went down. It could be something new. It could be something new, born around you. Moments like these would cease to end when the sun went down.
Right, so very subtle effect that. It's really not a lot. I'm not trying to put them into this giant room or anything like that. Just to create this subtle sense of space, just to push it back a little bit in the mix. I'll play it to you solo, one of the vocals, so you can hear what it sounds like. This is with the dry, and then I'll put it on.
It could be something new. It could be something new.
If I push it up, this is what the actual reverb sounds like.
It could be something new, born around you.
Right, so remember, when we compress it and it gets mastered, this is going to come out a lot more. So that's the thing about reverb, is it always comes out a lot more. So it sounds extremely subtle now, like you can hardly hear it. But I just know from doing this many times before that the reverb comes out when you compress it and when it gets mastered, and it'll actually sound a lot more prominent then. So that's just what we got in for now. And then there's another reverb here, which is, I think it's a little bit of a plate. Yeah. So it's an EMT plate, which is always nice on vocals, I find. You know, I'm not trying to turn it into an 80s record here. I just want to add a little bit of reverb. I just often find it's really nice on vocals. So this is what that reverb sounds like.
It could be something new, born around you. Moments like these would cease to end when the sun went down. It could be...
Right, so just a little bit there. And then what I've done on Megan's vocal is I've actually pushed it up a little bit higher.
It could be something new.
Right, so you hear there's a little bit more reverb on her voice. And that's just to push her a little bit behind Lance. It's a good method you can use. Add a bit more reverb to backing vocals. Just if you want them to sit a little bit more behind, and then make the main vocal a little bit drier. So take a listen to what that sounds like in the mix with both of those on now.
It could be something new.
Right, let me mute them and then I'll put them both on.
It could be something new, born around you. It could be something new, born around you. Moments like these would cease.
Right, so it's interesting when you compare them, you can actually hear it quite obviously, and it actually sounds really dry when you take it off then. But when you just listen to it, once you've gotten used to it, you don't actually consciously hear the reverb. It just creates this sense of space there, and that's really all we're going for. And this kind of track, like I said, it's very simple. We're not doing any fancy delays or anything like that going on. We're just trying to keep it as simple as possible and try and keep it still sounding a little bit natural, even though we're going for a more poppy kind of sound. Okay, so we've gone through each one of the 5 drivers now, and you've seen how each one of them affects the mix in a different way. And remember, you don't have to go through them in that exact order, although I find that tends to be the best way to go through it in general, at least your first pass through all of them. But you can jump around as well. When you're enhancing something, there's nothing stopping you fixing something. You can do it right away. But I just wanted to go through them in sequence just so that you could see what each of them are doing. So now that we've gone through all of them once, now it's time to ask the questions again. So we go back to balance again, and we ask things like, well, what's too loud now? What can't I hear? What's the main element of the song here? And now that we've at least done most of the groundwork for the mix, now we can get more into the balance. And you could even start automating now. So automation is when we automate things like the levels in the song. So we change it from section to section. So I've already done automation on this whole thing. So to save time, we're just going to jump forward, and I'm going to switch off suspended automation, which was just holding this back, and now it's going to switch all of this on now, which is going to set a basic level now for all of them. This is what it sounds like now.
It could be something new, born around you. Moments like these would cease to end when the sun went down.
Alright, so the levels are coming a little bit more together there now. Those are just basic, kind of rough levels that I've just set in whole sections over here, and you can do more detailed automation, obviously, if you like. But let's keep on moving, and the next thing we'd ask is fix once again. And right here on Lance's vocal, I've got this Q10 over here. And you might actually have to turn up your monitors a bit to hear this one. But take a listen to his voice when I play it pretty loud in the mix here. And don't worry, I won't come in blaring with my voice very quickly. So if you want to turn this up and just hear what I mean, take a listen to this frequency. I'll just boost it and you can hear how it's sort of this piercing frequency that I keep on hearing. And I've just notched it out here. So take a listen to this.
It could be something new, born around you. Moments like these would cease to end when the sun went down.
Alright, so you hear that frequency there? I just kept on hearing it all the time, so I swept around here until I found it. And by taking it out a bit, just notching it right out, it just sounds a lot less harsh in a way and less aggressive.
It could be something new.
Just sounds a lot smoother. Let me play it bypass and then I'll put it on.
It could be something